My name is Rebecca Martinez, and I'm 28 years old. For 12 years, my wealthy parents treated me like their personal housekeeper, while my younger sister, Amanda, lived like a princess. Every dinner party, every charity gala, every family gathering, I was scrubbing floors and polishing silverware, while she posed for photos and charmed guests. But last October, when my mother demanded I clean their entire estate for a high-profile business dinner with just 6 hours' notice, something inside me finally cracked. What happened next didn't just shatter our family facade. It exposed a truth that left everyone, including a Fortune 100 CEO, absolutely stunned. Let us know in the comments where you're watching. If this resonated, don't miss out on subscribing because tomorrow I'm sharing something that will completely change how you think about this topic. Before I tell you how I went from being treated like hired help to watching my parents grovel for my forgiveness, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy stories about justice being served cold. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what your biggest family challenge has been. Drop a comment below. I respond to every single one because your stories inspire me. Now, let me take you back to that crisp autumn evening in Denver when my entire world flipped upside down. I was in my downtown apartment reviewing quarterly reports on my laptop when my phone buzzed. The caller ID showed Mother, and my stomach immediately tightened. In our Aspen mansion, Halloween decorations probably sparkled on every surface, decorations I'd been hanging since I turned 16 while Amanda got her nails done. Rebecca, drop whatever little project you're working on, my mother Patricia said, without any greeting. Her voice carried that familiar tone of absolute authority that expected instant compliance. Your father's hosting the Thornfield Industries board tonight. Very important people, Rebecca. The kind of people who shape our social standing. I kept typing my email response to my marketing director while she continued. The cleaning service had an emergency. You need to be here by 2 o'clock to deep clean the house. All 6 guest rooms, both kitchens, the ballroom, and don't forget the crystal chandelier in the foyer. Amanda's getting her hair done for tonight's presentation. My fingers paused over the keyboard. Amanda's presentation? Of course. My 25-year-old sister worked as a junior marketing coordinator at a boutique firm, pulling in maybe $40,000 a year. But our parents treated her like she was running Goldman Sachs. Mom, I have meetings this afternoon, I said, glancing at my calendar, showing back-to-back video calls with clients across 3 time zones. Meetings? She actually laughed. Rebecca, sweetie, we know you've been struggling to find steady work since that temp job ended. This is good for you, keeps you busy, and contributes to the family. That temp job. 3 years ago, I'd told them I was doing some freelance consulting work. They'd immediately labeled it temporary and never asked another question. It was easier than explaining that I'd just closed my first 7-figure deal. Use the good cleaning supplies, not the cheap ones, Rebecca. These aren't your usual crowd. These are people who matter. CEO of Thornfield Industries will be there, Janet Westbrook. She's worth more than most small countries. People who matter, unlike me, apparently. I'll text you the complete checklist. And Rebecca, don't embarrass us by looking shabby. Wear something presentable when you answer the door for the catering staff. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, then at my computer screen, where an email from my CFO glowed. Rebecca, the Westbrook Group just confirmed they want to move forward with the full digital transformation package. Janet Westbrook specifically requested to meet with you personally tomorrow at 9 a.m. This could be our biggest contract yet, $3.2 million. Janet Westbrook, the same woman who would be at my parents' house tonight watching me scrub their toilets? I sat back in my leather chair, looking around my penthouse office. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the Denver skyline, and on my mahogany desk sat the Entrepreneur of the Year award I'd received last month, the award my parents knew nothing about. For 6 years, I'd built Technova solutions in complete secrecy. What started as freelance web design in my college dorm had evolved into a 50-employee company specializing in digital transformation for Fortune 500 companies. We had offices in Denver, Austin, and Seattle, with clients including 3 of the top 10 tech companies in America. But to my family, I was Rebecca the failure. Rebecca who couldn't hold down a real job. Rebecca whose only value was her ability to make their marble floors shine. My phone pinged with my mother's text. The cleaning checklist was 3 pages long, detailing everything from baseboards to light fixtures. At the bottom, Amanda will handle greeting the guests while you stay in the back. We can't have you confusing anyone about your role in this family. My role in this family? I walked to my office safe and pulled out a leather portfolio containing contracts worth $12 million in pending business. Tomorrow morning's meeting with Janet Westbrook wasn't just another client consultation. It was the deal that would catapult Technova into the national spotlight, the kind of partnership that gets written about in Forbes and Harvard Business Review. But tonight, that same Janet Westbrook would watch me invisible in the background, cleaning up for people who saw me as nothing more than free domestic labor. The irony was suffocating.
My assistant knocked and peeked in. "Rebecca, the car for tomorrow's airport pickup is confirmed. Are you sure you don't want to reschedule any of today's calls? You seem stressed." "I'm fine, Jasmine. Just family drama." She raised an eyebrow. In 6 years, she'd never heard me mention my family. There was a reason for that. "Should I send the usual flowers to your parents for hosting tonight's dinner?" I almost laughed. "No flowers, Jasmine. I think I'll handle my family obligations personally at this time." After she left, I opened my laptop and pulled up Technova's company profile. Our tagline read, "Transforming businesses through innovative technology solutions." What it didn't say was that I'd built this empire specifically to prove I was more than what my family believed I was. Every late night, every rejected proposal, every small victory, it had all been fuel for the fire they'd lit when they decided I wasn't worth their time or respect. My phone rang again. Amanda this time. "Becca, Mom says you're cleaning tonight." "Thank God!" I was worried we'd have to hire someone last minute. Her voice was bright and careless. "I'm meeting with some potential clients beforehand, so I won't be there to help, but you know how you are with details?" How I am with details. If she only knew that my attention to detail had just secured a partnership with Microsoft. "Just make sure everything's perfect," she continued. "This could be huge for my career. Janet Westbrook might need PR services, and I've been preparing for months to pitch her." PR services. Amanda's idea of a big client was a local restaurant wanting Instagram management. "Oh, and Mom wants you to wear that black dress, the plain one, so you blend into the background. We can't have guests thinking you're one of the family members they should be talking to." Blend into the background. I'd been blending into the background for 12 years, building an empire they couldn't even imagine, while they treated me like their personal janitor. Not tonight. I looked at my reflection in my office window. Professional blazer, designer heels, the bearing of someone who commanded respect in boardrooms across the country. Then I imagined myself 6 hours from now, on my hands and knees, scrubbing their marble entryway, while Janet Westbrook, my potential business partner, walked over me like furniture. Something crystallized in that moment. A decision that had been building for years finally solidified into unshakable resolve. I picked up my phone and opened my calendar app. Tomorrow's 9 a.m. meeting with Janet Westbrook was highlighted in red. Technova partnership discussion, confidential. Then I looked at my mother's cleaning checklist again. For 12 years, I'd chosen family obligation over self-respect. I'd chosen their comfort over my dignity. I'd chosen to be invisible rather than risk their disapproval. But tonight, Janet Westbrook was going to meet Rebecca Martinez twice. Once as the invisible cleaning lady in the background of my parents' dinner party, and once as the CEO she was about to hand a $3.2 million contract to. Only one of us knew both meetings were with the same person. I closed my laptop and made a decision that would change everything. It was time to stop being invisible. If you're loving what you're hearing, smash that subscribe button. It really keeps us going. All right, let's jump back in.
The memories came flooding back like a bitter avalanche as I sat in my office staring at that cleaning checklist. 12 years of being treated like the family failure while Amanda basked in praise for the most mediocre accomplishments. It started when I was 16. While other kids were going to homecoming, I was polishing the silver for my parents' anniversary party. Rebecca's not really the social type, my mother would tell guests with that apologetic smile, but she's so helpful around the house. Meanwhile, Amanda got a brand new BMW for her 16th birthday and a professional photographer for her Sweet 16 party. When I asked about driving lessons, my father chuckled. Let's see you keep your grades up first, Becca. Amanda's already talking about Yale. I graduated valedictorian. Amanda barely scraped by with a 2.8 GPA. Guess who got the college fund? Amanda has such natural leadership qualities, Patricia had explained when I found out my college savings had been redirected to my sister's sorority dues and spring break trips. She needs to make the right connections. You're more of a behind-the-scenes person anyway. Behind the scenes. That became my permanent role in the Martinez family hierarchy. Every Thanksgiving, I'd arrive early to help cook, while Amanda showed up fashionably late in designer outfits. Rebecca, you're so good with the practical stuff, aunts and uncles would say. Amanda's the one with the business mind, though. Did you hear she got promoted to senior coordinator? Senior coordinator? She answered phones and scheduled meetings. Last Christmas was the worst. 200 guests at the Denver Country Club for Amanda's engagement party to some trust fund kid whose biggest achievement was inheriting his grandfather's car dealership. I'd spent 3 days coordinating vendors, managing RSV keys, and handling logistics while Amanda picked out table linens and posed for engagement photos. When the society-paid photographer asked about the family, my mother had actually positioned me behind a floral arrangement. This is our daughter Amanda, the successful one, and her sister Rebecca helps out with events. Helps out with events. I'd literally organized the entire celebration, but sure, I just helped out.
The most painful part wasn't the dismissal. It was how completely they'd bought into their own narrative. In their minds, Amanda was destined for greatness, while I was destined for mediocrity. They weren't being cruel. They genuinely believed they were being realistic about my limitations. But the deepest cut was how they'd never even been curious. Not once in 6 years had anyone asked, "So, Rebecca, what exactly do you do during the day?" They'd simply assumed I spent my time applying for entry-level positions and getting rejected. The truth was more complex and infinitely more successful. Technova Solutions started in my dorm room at University of Colorado with a $500 laptop and unlimited determination to prove them wrong. While my parents were writing tuition checks for Amanda's networking opportunities at private school, I was coding 18-hour days and living on ramen noodles. My first client was a local bakery that needed a website. $50 for basic HTML. The owner was so impressed that she referred her to her book club, then her yoga instructor, then her husband's accounting firm. Word spread through Denver's small business community like wildfire. By sophomore year, I was pulling in more monthly revenue than Amanda's annual salary. By senior year, I'd incorporated and hired my first employee. The day I graduated, I had 12 people on payroll and contracts with 3 mid-sized companies. But I told my family I was doing some freelance computer stuff and let them assume it meant basic data entry. The secrecy wasn't intentional at first. I'd simply learned that sharing good news was pointless when it got immediately overshadowed by whatever minor thing Amanda had accomplished. When I mentioned landing my first corporate client, my mother had literally interrupted me mid-sentence to show everyone Amanda's participation trophy from her company's softball league. So I stopped mentioning my wins. I stopped expecting recognition. I built my empire in the shadows while playing the role they'd written for me, the struggling, slightly disappointing older daughter who was useful for household tasks. 6 years later, that empire employed 53 people across 3 states. My clients included household names like Netflix, Adobe, and Salesforce.
Last month, Inc. magazine had featured Technova in their Companies to Watch issue with a full-page spread about my journey from college dropout to tech innovator. College dropout. The article got that wrong. I'd graduated summa cum laude while building my business. But I'd never corrected it because my family didn't read Inc. magazine, and maintaining their narrative had become easier than fighting it. My parents still introduced me as between jobs at social gatherings. When people asked what kind of work I was looking for, Patricia would jump in with, "Oh, Rebecca's trying to figure herself out. Not everyone can be like Amanda." The psychological toll was crushing in ways I was only beginning to understand. I'd built a company worth millions, earned respect from industry leaders, and created dozens of high-paying jobs. But every family dinner left me feeling like a failure because I'd internalized their disappointment so completely. My therapist had a name for it: chronic invalidation. She explained how growing up with parents who consistently dismissed your achievements could rewire your brain to question your own success. Even now, signing million-dollar contracts, I sometimes wondered if I was somehow faking it. The evidence said otherwise. My bank statements were very real. My employees were very real. The respect I commanded in boardrooms was very real. But none of it felt real when my mother called me sweetie in that patronizing tone and asked if I needed help finding steady work. 3 weeks ago, I'd been invited to speak at the Colorado Tech Summit about women in entrepreneurship. 500 attendees, including Janet Westbrook, had given me a standing ovation after my presentation on building scalable tech solutions. That same weekend at Amanda's birthday brunch, my aunt had asked, "What are you up to these days?" Rebecca's still figuring things out, but she's been helping with some computer things for small businesses. It keeps her busy. Computer things for small businesses. I'd excused myself to the bathroom and cried for 10 minutes, wondering why their approval still mattered when I had the professional validation of actual industry leaders. The answer was simple and heartbreaking. They were my family. No matter how successful I became, part of me would always be that 16-year-old girl polishing silver while her sister got the spotlight. But tonight was different. Tonight, Janet Westbrook would see both versions of me: the invisible cleaning lady my family had created, and the CEO I'd become despite them. For the first time in 12 years, someone would witness the gap between their perception and my reality. My phone buzzed with another text from Amanda. "Mom wants you to use the good vacuum in the guest wing. Don't forget to empty it when you're done. See you tonight. I'm so excited to network with Janet Westbrook. This could change everything for my career." Her career. Amanda's monthly income wouldn't cover my weekly office expenses. But she was the one with career potential. I looked at my computer screen showing Technova's quarterly projections. We were on track to hit $15 million in revenue this year, with expansion planned into 3 new markets. Amanda was excited about the possibility of managing some startup's Instagram account. But in my parents' minds, she was the success story, and I was the one who needed career guidance. As I prepared to make the most important decision of my adult life, I realized something profound. I hadn't just built a successful company despite my family's lack of support. I'd built it specifically to prove them wrong. And tonight, Janet Westbrook was about to become the witness I'd been unconsciously preparing for my entire professional life. The question was, would I have the courage to let her see the truth? I stared at my phone for exactly 90 seconds, watching the cursor blink in the text message field. Then, I made the call that would detonate my family's carefully constructed reality. "Mom, I'm not coming." The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "Excuse me?" Patricia's voice turned arctic. "What do you mean you're not coming?" "I have a business meeting tonight. I can't clean your house." "A business meeting?" The laugh that erupted from her phone was sharp enough to cut glass. Rebecca, honey, what possible business meeting could you have on a Friday evening? Stop being dramatic and get in your car. Amanda's counting on tonight going perfectly. I looked out my office window at the Denver skyline, where Technova's logo glowed from the electronic billboard we'd purchased last month. I'm serious, Mom. I can't make it. Can't make it? Her voice rose an octave. This isn't a casual dinner party, Rebecca. This is the most important evening of your father's career. The Thornfield Industries Board will be there. Janet Westbrook herself is coming. Janet Westbrook. If she only knew. I understand it's important to you, but important to me? Patricia's composure shattered completely. This is about family, Rebecca. This is about doing your part. What is wrong with you? The familiar guilt started its assault on my nervous system. 12 years of conditioning kicked in, whispering that I was being selfish, that family came first, that my obligations weren't real compared to theirs. But then I looked at my desk, at the signed partnership agreements with Fortune 500 companies, at the framed photo of my team celebrating our latest product launch. 53 people whose livelihoods depended on my leadership. Millions of dollars in client relationships that trusted my expertise. There's nothing wrong with me, Mom. I have professional responsibilities. Professional responsibilities? The mockery in her voice could have leveled buildings. Rebecca, we know what you do all day. You apply for jobs and get rejected. Don't try to make your unemployment sound important. Something crystallized in that moment. Not anger, something colder and more final. What exactly do you think I do for work? I asked quietly. We've been through this. You do some computer consulting for small businesses when you can find it. Your father and I have been patient, but have you ever asked me for details about my consulting work? Details about what? Honey, we see your apartment. We see your car. We're not judging you for struggling, but tonight isn't about you. It's about family. My apartment. A 3,000 square foot penthouse in Lodo that cost more per month than Amanda made in a quarter. My car. A Tesla Model S that I'd paid for in cash. But they'd never visited my apartment. They'd never asked about my car. They'd simply decided what my life looked like and stopped paying attention. I'm hanging up now. Don't you dare hang up on me, Rebecca Ann Martinez. If you don't show up tonight, there will be consequences. Consequences? The threat that had controlled me since childhood. What consequences exactly? You won't be welcome at family events. Christmas will be family only. Don't think you can just skip your responsibilities and still be part of this family. I'd heard this threat a dozen times. Usually it worked. Usually, the fear of being completely cut off sent me scrambling to comply. Okay, I said simply. Okay, what? Okay, I won't be welcome at family events. I understand. The phone went quiet, except for Patricia's sharp breathing. You're not serious. Dead serious. I'm choosing my career over cleaning your house. Make whatever decisions you need to make about my place in the family. Your career? The word dripped with disbelief. Rebecca, you don't have a career. You have delusions. When are you going to grow up and accept reality? I hung up. My hands weren't even shaking. After 12 years of that conversation, in various forms, I'd finally found the strength to simply walk away. The phone rang immediately. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. Text messages started flooding in from Amanda. What did you just do? Mom is losing it. She's calling everyone in the family. Dad's having chest pains. How can you be so selfish? Answer your phone now. I set the phone to silent and opened my laptop. My calendar showed 3 client calls scheduled for next week, a board meeting for our Austin expansion, and a speaking engagement at Stanford Business School. My phone lit up with an incoming call from my father, the first time he'd called me directly in 2 years. I answered. Rebecca, his voice was carefully controlled, your mother is very upset. I imagine she is. This Thornfield dinner is crucial for our family's reputation. These are people who could open doors for Amanda's career. I'm sure they are. You're putting us in an impossible position. The house needs to be perfect, and we can't find another cleaning service on such short notice.
Dad, have you ever wondered how I afford my apartment? Your apartment? He sounded genuinely confused. You live in that studio downtown, right? Near the coffee shop? I lived in a penthouse with a view of the mountains. I'd lived there for 3 years. No, Dad, I don't live in a studio. Well, wherever you live, this isn't the time to be difficult. Can't you reschedule whatever this meeting is? It's with a Fortune 100 CEO about a multi-million-dollar contract. The pause was so long, I checked to see if he'd hung up. Rebecca, I know you like to exaggerate, but I'm not exaggerating. Sweetheart, you don't need to impress us with stories. We love you regardless of your situation, but right now we need you to be practical. Stories. He thought I was making up having a business meeting to avoid household chores. I'm gonna hang up now, Dad. Rebecca, wait! Let's talk about this reasonably. What if we hired you as a contractor? $200 for tonight's cleaning. $200. My hourly consulting rate was $1,500. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up and turned my phone off completely. Walking to my office window, I looked down at the street where people were heading home from their Friday jobs. People who went to work each day and felt seen, valued, respected for their contributions. People whose families asked about their day and celebrated their wins. For 6 years, I'd built something extraordinary while pretending to be ordinary. I'd hidden my light so thoroughly that even I sometimes forgot how bright it was. But tonight would change everything. Janet Westbrook was about to experience the most awkward dinner party of her life. She'd sit in my parents' pristine dining room, served by professional waitstaff, listening to Amanda's amateur pitch for PR services while my parents bragged about their successful younger daughter. All while the woman she'd flown to Denver specifically to meet was notably absent, uninvited to her own parents' dinner table because they needed someone to scrub their floors. Tomorrow morning, when Janet and I sat down for our official meeting, I'd have a choice. I could pretend tonight never happened, sign the contract, and continue living in 2 separate worlds. Or I could tell her exactly why I wasn't at the Martinez family dinner. My computer chimed with an email from Jasmine. Reminder, Janet Westbrook's assistant confirmed tomorrow's 9 a.m. meeting. Should I prepare the full company presentation or just the project overview? I typed back, full presentation. And Jasmine, can you research the guest list for tonight's Thornfield Industries dinner in Aspen? I want to know everyone who will be there. Of course. Any particular reason? I stared at the cursor for a long moment, then typed, I'm about to make some people very uncomfortable with the truth. 30 minutes later, Jasmine sent me the complete guest list, 22 names, including Janet Westbrook, 3 other Fortune 500 CEOs, 2 senators, and the mayor of Denver, all people who would witness my family's dinner party disaster when their hired cleaning lady failed to show up. All people who would recognize my name tomorrow morning when Janet Westbrook introduced me as the CEO she was partnering with. My parents thought they were hosting a sophisticated evening to elevate their social status. Instead, they were about to create the most memorable networking event of the year for all the wrong reasons. I opened my contact list and scrolled to the emergency cleaning services I'd researched earlier. 3 companies that handled last-minute requests. I could still save them from complete humiliation. My finger hovered over the first number. Then I closed my phone and left it closed completely. For 12 years, I'd been cleaning up their messes, literally and figuratively. Tonight, they'd have to figure it out themselves. I gathered my things and headed for the elevator. I had a dinner reservation at Denver's finest steakhouse, followed by an early bedtime. Tomorrow would be the most important day of my professional life, and I intended to be well-rested for it. As the elevator descended, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. The absence of guilt. No anxiety about disappointing them, no fear of consequences. Just the quiet satisfaction of finally choosing myself. The doors opened to the lobby where the evening security guard smiled and nodded. Have a good weekend, Miss Martinez. Miss Martinez, not Rebecca who helps out or Rebecca between jobs. Just the respectful acknowledgement of a successful professional leaving her office. It was the first time all day someone had seen me exactly as I was. Tomorrow, Janet Westbrook would too. While I slept peacefully in my penthouse that Friday night,
absolute chaos erupted in Aspen. My phone, still turned off, missed the digital meltdown that painted the complete picture of their disaster. When I finally powered it back on Saturday morning at 6 a.m., I found 47 missed calls and 63 text messages spanning from 3 p.m. Friday to 2 a.m. Saturday. Reading them was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Friday, 3:30 p.m. Amanda, where are you? Mom's calling every cleaning service in Colorado. Friday, 4:15 p.m. Patricia, we found a service, but they want $800 for same-day cleaning. This is your fault. Friday, 5:45 p.m. The cleaners just left. They did a terrible job. The chandelier still has spots, and they used the wrong polish on the wood floors. Friday, 6:30 p.m. Guests arriving in 30 minutes. House looks mediocre. This reflects poorly on our family.
Friday, 7:20 p.m. Amanda. Janet Westbrook just walked in and slipped on the poorly cleaned marble. Dad's mortified. Friday, 8:45 p.m. Patricia. Dinner conversation keeps getting interrupted because the hired cleaners left supplies scattered in the utility room. Very unprofessional. Friday, 9:30 p.m. Amanda. Janet Westbrook asked who normally handles the house maintenance. Mom had to admit our daughter who helps out wasn't available. So embarrassing. Friday, 10:15 p.m. Patricia. Several guests commented on the subpar cleaning job. Margaret Thornfield actually asked if we'd changed housekeeping staff. But the real catastrophe was revealed in the messages from later that evening. Friday, 11:30 p.m. Amanda. Disaster! Janet Westbrook overheard Mom complaining to Mrs. Chen about her unreliable older daughter who can't hold down a real job. Friday, 11:45 p.m. Amanda. It gets worse. Janet asked what kind of work you do. Mom said computer stuff for small businesses when she can find it. Janet looked confused. Saturday, 12:20 a.m. Patricia. I may have made an error. Janet Westbrook kept asking specific questions about you. She seemed to know your name from somewhere. Saturday, 1:15 a.m. Amanda. Mom, we have a problem. Janet just asked Dad for your full name and what company you work for. She looked shocked when he said you don't have steady employment. Saturday, 1:30 a.m. Patricia. Call me immediately. Janet Westbrook says she has a meeting with a Rebecca Martinez on Monday morning. She wants to know if it's the same person. The final message, sent at 2 a.m., was from my father. Rebecca, please call. There may have been a misunderstanding about your career situation. A misunderstanding about my career situation. I poured myself coffee and settled into my home office to work on Monday's presentation materials. Around 8 a.m., my phone rang. Janet Westbrook's number. My heart rate spiked, but I answered professionally. Rebecca Martinez speaking. Miss Martinez, this is Janet Westbrook. I hope I'm not calling too early. Not at all, Miss Westbrook. I'm always available for business discussions. I'm calling about our Monday meeting, but also about something rather unusual that happened last night. I attended a dinner party hosted by Patricia and Robert Martinez. They mentioned having a daughter named Rebecca who does computer consulting when she can find work. I set down my coffee cup very carefully. That's an interesting coincidence. Is it a coincidence, Miss Martinez? Because when I mentioned I was meeting with a Rebecca Martinez about a major technology partnership, your parents seemed genuinely shocked that someone with their daughter's name could be a successful CEO. The moment of truth had arrived faster than expected. Ms. Martinez, Patricia and Robert Martinez are my parents. The silence stretched for nearly 30 seconds. Your parents, she said slowly, spent the evening complaining about their unemployed daughter who can't maintain steady work. They said you were unreliable and had refused to help with household tasks for their important dinner party. That's accurate. The same daughter who built Technova Solutions from the ground up and is about to close a $3.2 million partnership with my company? Also accurate. Another pause. Then Janet started laughing. Not polite business laughter. Genuine, incredulous laughter. Miss Martinez, I have to ask, do your parents have any idea what you've accomplished? None whatsoever.
How is that possible? You employ dozens of people. You've been featured in major publications. You spoke at the Colorado Tech Summit where I personally watched you receive a standing ovation. They've never asked about the specifics of my work. They made assumptions about my life and stopped paying attention to contradictory evidence. Contradictory evidence like your obvious success? They assumed I'm struggling financially because I don't discuss my business with them. It became easier to let them maintain their narrative than to fight for recognition I didn't need from people who weren't interested in seeing me clearly. Janet was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice held a note of something I couldn't quite identify. Respect mixed with disbelief. Your mother spent 20 minutes last night telling the Thornfield Industries board about her disappointment in her older daughter's inability to maintain employment. She said you were going through a phase and needed guidance about work ethic. What did you say? And nothing at the time. I was too stunned. But Ms. Martinez, I want you to know that room contained some of the most successful business leaders in Colorado. They now have a very specific impression of how your family views your capabilities. The irony was suffocating. My parents had spent their most important social evening of the year publicly humiliating themselves by describing their CEO daughter as a failure to a room full of people who would soon know exactly who I was. There's something else, Janet continued. Your sister Amanda approached me for PR services for Thornfield. She positioned herself as the successful Martinez daughter and implied her family's business acumen ran in her favor, not yours. What did you tell her? I told her I'd consider it. But Ms. Martinez, her portfolio consists entirely of social media management for local restaurants and small retailers. She quoted me rates that wouldn't cover our coffee budget for a board meeting. While Amanda had been pitching Instagram management to a Fortune 100 CEO, thinking she was networking her way to success, I'd been building the kind of company that could genuinely serve Janet's needs.
I have to ask, Janet said, why didn't you tell me about the family connection when we scheduled Monday's meeting? Because my professional relationships exist completely separately from my family dynamics. My business success has nothing to do with them and everything to do with my team's capabilities and track record. But surely they're proud of what you've built? They don't know what I've built. In their minds, I'm Rebecca who struggles with employment. Tomorrow morning, I'll become Rebecca who just signed their biggest contract of the year. Those are two different people to them. And which Rebecca are you really? The one you're meeting with on Monday. Janet laughed again. Miss Martinez, I've been in business for 25 years, and I've never encountered anything quite like this situation. Your parents hosted a dinner party to impress me, spent the evening criticizing their unsuccessful daughter, and that daughter turns out to be the CEO I flew to Denver specifically to meet. It's certainly unique. It's about to become legendary. Miss Martinez, do you mind if I ask what you plan to do about this situation? I looked out my office window at the Denver skyline, at the Tech Nova logo glowing on our building, at the city where I'd built something remarkable while remaining invisible to the people who should have seen me first. I plan to show up for our Monday meeting and deliver the presentation that wins Thornfield's business. What my family learns about my actual career is entirely up to them. They're going to find out, you realize. This partnership will be announced publicly. Technova's CEO will be named in press releases, industry publications, our investor reports. I understand. Are you prepared for that conversation? I thought about 12 years of being dismissed, overlooked, and underestimated. 12 years of watching my sister receive praise for mediocrity while my genuine achievements went unnoticed. 12 years of being treated like hired help in my own family. Miss Westbrook, I've been preparing for that conversation my entire adult life. Then I'll see you Monday morning, Miss Martinez. And Miss Martinez, I want you to know that everything I witnessed last night only reinforced my conviction that Technova is exactly the kind of innovative, independently successful company we want as a partner. Your ability to build something extraordinary without relying on family connections or recognition is precisely the entrepreneurial spirit Thornfield values. Thank you. That means a great deal. Oh, and Miss Martinez, your parents left several messages with my assistant overnight, asking about the Rebecca Martinez I'm meeting with on Monday.
Apparently, they're concerned there might be some confusion about identities. What did you tell them? Nothing yet. I thought I'd let you decide how you want to handle the revelation. After we hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, processing what had just happened. My parents had created the perfect storm, publicly humiliating themselves in front of exactly the people who would soon celebrate my success. By Tuesday morning, everyone at that dinner party would know that the unemployed, unreliable daughter they'd heard about was actually the CEO who just landed a $3.2 million contract with Thornfield Industries. My phone buzzed with yet another text from Amanda. Mom wants to know if you're related to the Rebecca Martinez who owns some tech company. Please call. I turned off my phone and opened my laptop. I had a presentation to finalize, a company to run, and a legacy to build. Monday morning would take care of itself. Monday morning arrived with crystalline Colorado sunshine streaming through my office windows. I dressed in my sharpest business suit, the navy Armani I'd worn when Forbes photographed me for their Women in Tech feature, and drove to Thornfield Industries headquarters with the calm confidence of someone who'd spent 6 years preparing for this exact moment. The presentation went flawlessly. Janet Westbrook and her executive team asked sharp questions about scalability, security protocols, and implementation timelines. I answered each one with the expertise that came from building solutions for companies 3 times Thornfield's size. When I clicked to the final slide showing our projected partnership outcomes, the room was silent for exactly 10 seconds. Then Janet smiled and extended her hand across the mahogany conference table. Miss Martinez, welcome to the Thornfield family. Let's make this partnership official. The contract signing took 20 minutes. The champagne toast took another 10. By 11 a.m., I was officially the CEO of Thornfield Industries' newest strategic partner, with a guaranteed $3.2 million in revenue and options for expansion into their international markets. As I gathered my materials, Janet pulled me aside. Rebecca, I want you to know that Thornfield's communications team will be announcing this partnership in tomorrow's Wall Street Journal. The article will feature you prominently as Technova's founder and CEO. Are you ready for that level of visibility? I thought about my parents, probably still crafting explanations for Friday's dinner disaster, still wondering about the mysterious Rebecca Martinez who shared their daughter's name. I've been ready my entire career. Janet nodded. Your family is about to discover who you really are in the most public way possible. That's either going to be very satisfying or very complicated. Probably both. I drove back to my office feeling lighter than I had in years. My assistant, Jasmine, met me at the elevator with a bottle of champagne and news that 3 other Fortune 500 companies had already called after hearing about the Thornfield partnership through industry networks. Oh, and Rebecca, she said as we walked to my office, your mother has called 17 times since 9 a.m. She sounds increasingly frantic.
I'd been expecting this. Patricia had probably spent the weekend researching every Rebecca Martinez in Colorado's business community, slowly realizing that her unemployed daughter might not be what she seemed. At 2 p.m., she called again. This time, I answered. Rebecca? Her voice was tight with barely controlled panic. We need to talk. Are you the Rebecca Martinez who just signed a contract with Thornfield Industries? Yes. The silence stretched so long I could hear her breathing. You're the CEO of Technova Solutions. Yes. You've been running a multi-million-dollar company for 6 years? Yes. And you never told us. I looked out my window at downtown Denver, at the life I'd built entirely separate from their expectations and limitations. You never asked. How could we ask if we didn't know there was anything to ask about? Mom, I've lived in a penthouse for 3 years. I drive a Tesla. I wear designer clothes to work every day. You assumed I was struggling financially without ever questioning evidence to the contrary. We thought maybe you had savings from Grandma, or you were living beyond your means, or... Her voice trailed off as she realized how those assumptions sounded. You thought what was easiest to think, that I was exactly who you decided I should be. The Wall Street Journal called this morning. They want to interview the family of Technova's CEO for a follow-up piece. Rebecca, why didn't you tell us?
I leaned back in my chair, remembering years of interrupted conversations, dismissed achievements, and casual dismissals of my intelligence and ambition. When I mentioned landing my first major client, you immediately started talking about Amanda's participation trophy. When I tried to share good news, you treated it like childish fantasy. I learned that sharing my success with people who weren't interested in seeing it was pointless. We're your family. Family supports each other's dreams. Family celebrates each other's wins. Family asks questions about each other's lives. You've done none of those things for 12 years. Patricia's voice cracked. We made mistakes. You made choices, and so did I. I chose to build something extraordinary without your permission or validation. My other line rang. Jasmine's voice came through the intercom. Rebecca, Amanda's here. She says it's urgent. Send her in. Amanda walked into my office like she was entering a foreign country. Her eyes widened as she took in the floor-to-ceiling windows, the executive furniture, the awards on my walls, the obvious signs of genuine success. "This is where you work?" she asked, her voice small. "This is my company's headquarters." She sat down across from my desk, looking diminished in a way I'd never seen before. I made a fool of myself Friday night, didn't I? Pitching Instagram management to Janet Westbrook while my sister was about to sign a multi-million-dollar deal with her company? Amanda, no, let me say this. She took a shaky breath. I've spent years thinking I was the successful one in this family. I was proud of my little PR firm, my local clients, my modest achievements. I looked down on you because I thought you were struggling while I was thriving. I waited. But you weren't struggling. You were building an empire. While I was managing social media accounts for coffee shops, you were consulting for Fortune 500 companies. While I was proud of my $40,000 salary, you were running a company that generates millions. Your success doesn't diminish mine, and mine doesn't diminish yours. Yes, it does. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. Because I built my self-worth on being better than you. I let Mom and Dad treat you terribly because it made me feel special by comparison. That's not success, that's complicity. It was the most honest conversation we'd had since childhood. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I'm sorry I never asked about your life. I'm sorry I enjoyed being the favorite. I'm sorry I let them use you for free labor while I got praised for mediocrity. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Jasmine again. Rebecca, your father's here now too. Within minutes, both parents were sitting in my office looking around with the same stunned expression Amanda had worn. 12 years of assumptions crumbling in real time. My father spoke first. Rebecca, I owe you an apology. We failed you as parents. We saw what we expected to see instead of what was actually in front of us. The Wall Street Journal wants to know about our family dynamic. What am I supposed to tell them? That we treated our successful daughter like household staff because we assumed she was unemployed? Tell them the truth. That you made assumptions about my life and never bothered to verify them. The truth will humiliate us publicly. I looked to my family, really looked at my family for the first time in years. They seemed smaller than I remembered, more fragile, more human. The truth already humiliated you publicly. Friday night, you spent the evening criticizing your CEO daughter to a room full of business leaders. The damage is done. Robert leaned forward. What can we do to fix this? Start by seeing me, I said simply. Not who you think I should be or who would be convenient for me to be. See who I actually am. We want to try, Amanda said. All of us.
I nodded slowly. Then we start over, not as the family where Rebecca cleans up everyone's messes, but as equals. I'll be your daughter and sister, not your servant. Patricia's voice was barely a whisper. Are we invited to the Thornfield celebration dinner? The Journal mentioned there would be a formal announcement event. You're invited as my family, not as my staff, if you can handle that distinction. Over the next hour, we talked, really talked, for the first time in over a decade. They asked about my business, my employees, my vision for Technova's future. They listened to my answers without immediately pivoting to Amanda's accomplishments. It was awkward and halting, but it was real. When they left, Amanda turned back at my office door. "Rebecca, I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago." The Wall Street Journal article ran the next morning with the headline, "Tech Entrepreneur's Quiet Revolution: How Rebecca Martinez Built a $1 million company in Her Family's Shadow." The piece detailed Technova's growth, the Thornfield partnership, and included a sidebar about the hidden costs of family expectations. My phone exploded with congratulations from colleagues, interview requests from podcasters, and speaking invitations from universities. But the message that meant the most came from my mother at 7 a.m. "I read the article. I'm proud of you, Rebecca. I should have been saying that for years. Love, Mom." 6 months later, Technova had expanded to 5 cities and 120 employees. The Thornfield partnership had opened doors to international markets I'd only dreamed about. Forbes named me to their 40 under 40 list, and Harvard Business School invited me to guest lecture on entrepreneurship. But the real victory wasn't professional, it was personal. My family had learned to see me as I actually was, not as they'd imagined me to be. We had dinner together monthly now, conversations where they asked about my work with genuine interest and celebrated my wins without reservation. Amanda's PR firm had found its niche working with women-owned tech startups, companies that needed her authentic understanding of fighting for recognition in competitive fields. She'd never be Technova-level successful, but she'd found success that was truly hers. Most importantly, I'd learned that my worth wasn't determined by their recognition. I'd built something extraordinary despite their blindness, not because of it. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the courage to be successful without permission. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, if you've ever hidden your light to avoid threatening others, remember this: your value doesn't decrease when someone fails to see it. Thank you for following Rebecca's journey from invisible to invaluable. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your own experiences with family expectations and professional success. Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and your stories inspire others who might be struggling with similar challenges. Subscribe if you believe everyone deserves respect for who they are, not who others think they should be. Remember, success doesn't need anyone's permission. It just needs your courage to pursue it. Until next time, know your worth and never apologize for being exactly who you're meant to be. Next up, 2 more stories chosen just for you. If you enjoyed this, you'll want to see what's coming. Tap to keep going.